There is no policy of starvation in Gaza, and there is no starvation in Gaza. We enable humanitarian aid throughout the duration of the war to enter Gaza, otherwise there would be no Gazans. And what has interdicted the supply of humanitarian aid is one force, Hamas. Again, the reversal of truth. Hamas robs, steals this humanitarian aid, and then accuses Israel of not supplying it.
Okay, you all. Today we're diving into a serious topic that has been dominating the global headlines: the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. We keep hearing about the starvation, lack of aid, and desperation. But here's the question no one seems to be asking: who's really to blame? And spoiler alert, it is not Israel, it is not Trump, it is not the US, it is Hamas. And I don't understand why the lefties and Democrats would not acknowledge Hamas' role in the devastation in Gaza, but would rather blame Israel, Trump, the US. So let's listen to some of this rhetoric and let's really get down to the bottom of why no one wants to acknowledge that Hamas is the reason for the starvation at the Gaza Strip.
I feel like this moment, these images that are coming out about the humanitarian situation is, in fact, an inflection point.
Why did it take this long? I mean, in November of last year, the International Criminal Court issued a warrant for the arrest of Benjamin Netanyahu for the war crime of starvation 8 months ago, before Israel cut off all food, all water, all electricity into the Gaza Strip for 3 months. And to say the United States is silent, it's much, much worse than that. We are profoundly complicit and deeply responsible. It is our weapons that enforce this starvation. It is our diplomatic efforts that prevent international justice from being done. The blood is on our hands as Americans because it is our weapons that is responsible for those children starving to death.
No blood for the hands of Hamas?
Hamas has
Is
lots
there no
of...
blood
No,
on
no,
their
no.
hands?
Let one...
Thank you. Finally, somebody with some sense. Scott Jennings just said there's no blood on the hands for Hamas. Why are we not blaming Hamas? Why do we have to let CNN and Western journalists go in to tell us what we already know?
Why don't you let me finish? How about that? Okay?
I'm just
Okay.
asking.
Yes,
You
of
blame
course.
Israel and you blame the
sorry,
US, but we haven't heard Hamas yet. I'm just
I
asking.
actually have one of my closest friends in college was blown up
just
by
asking.
Hamas. I have probably a lot more experience with suffering from Hamas, with all due respect, than you do. Let's say this. If we want to see who is more to blame for the starvation of children in Gaza, Hamas or Israel, let CNN in. Israel has not allowed Western journalists in since October 7th. Let them go in, let CNN go in, and decide for themselves. How about that?
How about Hamas
Can I-
releases
how
the
about-
hostages and
Yeah,
gets a
and let me
ceasefire?
think, what do you think would
Hold on,
happen if
Peter.
Hamas
Peter, just
released
give me
the
one
hostages?
second. Scott, let me ask you a question because Hamas is responsible for October 7th. Hamas is responsible for a lot of terrible things. But the question is, who can alleviate the starvation at this moment in Gaza? And does Israel have a responsibility to do much more than it is doing right now? And what do you say to that?
Well, my view is Hamas started the war. The suffering of the people in Gaza is their direct responsibility of what Hamas has done. Hamas took
But what
money
about
for
Israel's-
years,
what about
and instead of doing anything for the
But
people
what
of
about
Gaza, built
Israel's
tunnels
role in
for this siege.
controlling
Well, you asked me
the
a question. I
flow?
wanna answer it.
But what about Israel's role in controlling the flow of food?
Okay, so here's the thing. They're not going to let Scott Jennings finish his comment, so I'm going to finish it for him. So let's just look at the history. Hamas started the war. Hamas took money for years. First, let's start with a basic fact. Hamas has ruled the Gaza Strip since 2007. That's over 15 years of complete political and military control. Every shipment, every aid delivery, every foreign investment that enters Gaza, Hamas has the final say. Now let's imagine this. The world has sent billions of dollars in aid to Gaza over the years. From the UN, EU, the US, coming from Trump, and yet the people remain in poverty. Why? Because Hamas has diverted those resources to fund terrorism. We've seen it time and time again. Cement meant for schools is used for terror tunnels. Humanitarian supplies are sold on the black market. Medicine and food go to fighters, not civilians. So yes, no one wants to talk about Hamas. They want to talk about Israel, Trump, and what isn't being done. But everything is being done correctly under the Trump administration, and it is not our fault. This is something that Hamas has created, and it's something that every mainstream media needs to bring to attention.
The flow of food.
Yeah.
I just want us to set the table here, because I understand that there's a lot of political talking points around this, but this is a conversation about human beings and about the things that they need in order to survive, which is food and water. And the question I have for you is there a moment for you where you sit here and you think, yeah, maybe more can be done? And at what point should the United States government say that?
Well, we are saying that. Number one, Hamas has weaponized aid. They've stolen it from the United Nations to resell it to finance their war. Some people think they've made $1 billion stealing and weaponizing this aid. That's not the United States doing. That's Hamas doing. That's number one. Number two, they've made unreasonable demands in these hostage negotiations. We're on the brink of a hostage deal and a ceasefire. They've blown that up today with Israel and now the United States having to walk away from an unreasonable situation. It is blatantly obvious that Israel and the United States wants the hostages home. They want a ceasefire, and they want to feed the people in Gaza. Hamas does not.
Can I just add? The Israeli government's stated position is to support the Trump plan for the full expulsion of all Palestinians from Gaza. And I would remind you, there is no Hamas leadership in the West Bank. How are Palestinians being treated in the West Bank?
So here's my question again. Every time Hamas is brought up, this guy is constantly trying to redirect the conversation. Let's deal with the issue. Why can't we talk about Hamas? What is the problem? They are the reason for what's happening at the Gaza Strip, but no one wants to acknowledge it. And I'm trying to figure out, why do they keep skipping over what Hamas has done? It's always Hamas, but no, it's Hamas and that's it.
Where Hamas is not in control, where there are no Hamas fighters. Palestinians are being expelled from their homes, living under conditions that even Israel's own human rights organizations call apartheid in the West Bank, where there is no Hamas. So yes, Hamas does despicable things, but these talking points, with all respect, people don't believe them anymore. People don't believe them anymore.
All they have to do is release the hostages.
I just want to play, hold on a second, Scott. I want to play Cindy McCain. She's the executive director of the World Food Program, and she talked about what is happening right now in terms of the actual administration of aid and what it could be. And she knows that because she's done it before. Watch.
When we had full access, we had 400 distribution sites. We were getting in 600 trucks a day. So the capability that we have is unmatched by any other organization or any other foundation. And we know where our food goes because we have a system on the ground that is tested and works. We need full sustained access. We need at scale, so we can set up the kinds of aid stations that can actually help people and do it where it's not a panic situation.
Cindy's right. Let me just say from the outset, Hamas is responsible for what happened in Gaza. They don't negotiate in.
Can we say it again? Hamas is responsible for what's happening in Gaza.
Good faith. They are a terrorist organization. Having said that, Israel needs to be doing far more than they're doing to allow food to come in or to provide it themselves. And I mean, having spent much of the last 3 years in the Muslim world, you ought to see how the U.S. is being portrayed there for standing by and being silent, at least on this. Now, Hamas, they are a terrorist organization. I don't speak.
Let me speak. We're not standing by. We're sending aid. We're supporting. We cannot control how Hamas is interfering and distributing the aid that is being sent. If they're all gathering there, taking what we're sending them, what more do you want the U.S. to do? What more do you want Israel to do?
Israel needs to do more, and America needs to do more to force them to allow food in. It's heartbreaking to see what's going on. I served meals in southern Turkey after the earthquake with somebody from World Central Kitchen who later went to Gaza and was killed by a strike. Wow. They're serving meals there. It's a horrible situation. Anybody who can watch what we just watched and say, no, Israel's doing enough, the U.S. is doing enough, we're not.
Yeah, I mean, she said 400 distribution sites is what they typically would have to feed a population of that size. We're talking about 4 now. And then at those sites, I can show you the headlines. I mean, dozens killed in separate incidents over the course of the last several weeks, just trying to get aid at those sites, creating incredibly dangerous conditions. It just seems, Abel, at this moment, it's not actually asking all that much for there to be more than what is happening right now, because what's happening right now is clearly not even close to being enough.
Abby, to look at the images, obviously it's painful, especially I'm a father. There's a lot of us here who are fathers, to see these kids. But then Hamas is just, they portray as a political party. They're a syndicate. They're a gang. They are a terrorist organization. I've been to Sderot. I've been to Ashdod, little cities right next to Gaza. These kids wake up in the morning, there's a kazan coming over their head. They're going into these culverts that they paint them as snails so these kids can play in culverts to protect themselves. This is bad. President Donald J. Trump wants a couple of things. Scott mentioned it. He wants a ceasefire. He wants this to end. This guy does not want war. President Trump wants this to end.
He's called for mass expulsion.
Hamas
He wants
is the
to build
one.
a hotel.
Look, they can't even acknowledge what Hamas has done. Hamas is a terrorist group. All they want to do is complain about Trump, complain about what he isn't doing, and he's sending all of the aid and support as he has promised.
He's
Hamas is the
called for
one that's
expelling the entire population. Did you not hear that?
I mean, come on.
Come
Come on what?
He's got his envoy over there right now.
That's the
trying to
official
end
Israeli
this thing.
position to facilitate the Trump. Why are 3 of those 4 aid centers all in the extreme south of Gaza on the border of Egypt? Because Israel's own defense minister has said, we are implementing the Trump plan. Gazans can only live on 12% of Gaza now, which was already one of the most overcrowded places on earth, because Israel is facilitating the Trump plan, moving the population into a tiny area, making life so hellish and so miserable that they hope that as many people who don't die will leave. That's official Israeli.
So, again, this has nothing to do with Hamas. It's all about Trump, where actually it is Hamas who caused this problem. So, again, if it's your first time visiting us, please like, subscribe, and share the video. And please leave a comment. I would love to have a conversation with everyone. Tell me how you feel about Hamas and how they have caused this starvation at the Gaza Strip. Until next time, stay bold, stay curious.